Okay, we're gonna give this a try. I'm kind of tired, so I don't know. Anyway, today topic, as I mentioned before, we're gonna talk about pressure and flight zones or fight zones. Um, Now, the dictionary definition of pressure is force exerted on or against something in contact with it, or persuasion, influence, or intimidation to make someone do something. Now, we all have zones in which, we can influence or put pressure on the dog or the stock, or the dog can put pressure on the stock or on us, or the stock can put pressure on the dog or on us. When we're kind of looking at this, the size of these pressure zones may vary. And one of the things that we're doing in training is teaching a dog to respect our pressure and how to properly respond to our pressure in training. If we want to push him out, and we can expand our zone of pressure through training, or decrease it on a dog that's easily intimidated. We can teach him, hey, it's okay, we're not doing anything mean to you here. And we can also change our zone of pressure through body language. A lot of times, when I'm wanting to put pressure on a dog, say he's not listening to me, I need him to get out a little bit, and I'll stand up, square my shoulders back, and hands up, and hey, make myself a little bit bigger. I look directly at him, do. I'm really trying to get his attention and put more pressure on him. The moment he gives to me, the dog turns off or whatever, then I just drop my shoulders and, drop back, turn back, and release that pressure and let him, it's okay. Putting pressure on is very important in dog training. So is taking pressure off. And in some cases, taking pressure off is more important, because that's the point where we tell the dog, you did the right thing, good dog, now you can go do what you want there, or what I want. So we have these different zones of pressure, and we can affect them too by a stock stick, holding a stick in our hand. This pressure on us, it's out in front of us, and this is why a lot of times, a dog that's respectful or that's maybe a little bit worried, they'll, instead of coming straight to you when you call them, they'll kind of come around behind you and kind of come up by your leg and being submissive. They're avoiding that pressure there from you. Dogs have pressure zones too, their sphere of influence. Some dogs, maybe have a bigger sphere of influence than others. Some dogs, kind of make stock worried, and their zone of pressure is going to be much larger, than another dog's zone where he's more relaxed and the stock aren't scared of him. And so he can get a lot closer to the stock before he scares them or intimidates them or puts enough pressure on them to make them move. As we mentioned before, a stock has a flight zone. And this is the zone that the dog needs to put pressure on to get a reaction from the stock. And on some stock, this zone may be here, it may be here, it may be way over here, depending on their temperament and what they're used to. And some stock are easily scared, you can't put much pressure on them. Stock has their own zone of pressure, and again, this is a lot of this is facing You know, no pressure behind. This isn't scary back here generally. Um, there's no mean evil face back on this side. The dog's not worried back here. But sometimes in this area here, some stock may be more intimidating to a dog. You know, he has his zone that he can put pressure on the dog. Some will and some won't. Some dogs, you know, can't handle this pressure, and they'll want to kind of avoid it. They don't want to deal with that pressure, and that's one of the things, like when we talked about balance before. You know, some dogs have trouble balancing because they don't want to get into this pressure here and take control. They don't like it. It intimidates them. They don't want to deal with it, so they skim around and avoid it. And so that's one of the things you need to understand when you're working on different things with your dog, is understanding where this pressure is, where the dog can put pressure on the stock, and where the stock is putting pressure on the dog, and what you're doing. And everything has, you know, a zone of pressure. Like a lot of dogs, you know, when you have a fence here, there's a lot of dogs are a little bit worried about getting on that fence. They feel pressure from that fence, that force, where they're a little intimidated of getting in there. And that's a pretty normal thing. Everything, obstacles, everything, pressure. So anyway, we talked a little bit about that. I'm sure there's a bunch more I was wanting to say. When I talk about a dog holding pressure, I'm talking about him dealing with this zone. He's here. He's holding pressure, not bouncing around and doing whatever. You know, he's confident. He says, I'm right here. I can deal with that. I can take this pressure and sit right there. That's what I mean on a dog that'll hold pressure. Some dogs we can train them to do that. Some dogs we can't. Some dogs are just not confident enough. You know, that flight zone deal. You know, here's that zone the dog should be on to make the stock move. But some dogs, you know, push in too fast or too far, depending on the stock, and then they hit that zone where that's what we said, you know, a fight zone, where the stock is wanting to turn around and fight the dog. Things to keep in mind. All right, break time.